So I'm going to move around a little when I do this because it's a very raw subject. So, um, I have lost a significant amount of weight, and I haven't even really been on a diet plan. And I've been thinking, how did this happen? You may recall a while back I did a video about how my husband did not like me getting any kind of attention on my appearance. Well, any kind of attention, period, but especially on my appearance. And if anybody gave me any kind of compliment, like, oh, that's such a pretty blouse, Heather, it really brings out your complexion or whatever, then when I got home that night, I had to deal with a lot of very ugly verbal abuse, sleep deprivation, stuff like that. He was very, very controlling. He controlled all the money. He basically controlled my whole life, and he wanted to control how I looked. And he did not want me looking good. He did not want anybody giving me attention. And the price for even just looking okay was so high for me personally that I just forget it. I just totally let myself go. I didn't care. I just didn't care. If taking care of myself means he's on my back constantly, I don't want to take care of myself. And that was basically my philosophy. And so I just gave up basically. And after he died, it took years to come back from that. And it basically took 2 near-death experiences for me to really start examining some things in my life. I was attacked on a bus a couple years ago, about 3 years ago now, I think. 2 years ago, and he was bothering me. He was sitting behind me on the bus, and I said, I don't want to talk, and he got angry, and he cut off my ponytail with a knife. That was the first one. Now, that could have been my throat very, very easily, because he was the type of guy that he didn't want to be disrespected. And if he felt he was being disrespected, that called for a very brutal response in his world. So I actually got off pretty easy. And the second thing, I was in a bad accident. And after that, I started taking care of my hair more. You can't tell it today, but, I started coloring it and, using conditioner, stuff like that. And just, trying to take care of what hair I had, because I do like my hair. And that was a very good step. I still was not eating what I would say correctly. I was doing a lot of emotional eating. I didn't make sure I had something to eat in the house that was healthy. I didn't do any kind of meal prep really. I'm looking for my soda. I don't see it. And that kind of thing. So I only had bad choices basically. And I was so I was still working on that. And then about 9 months after I was attacked, I was in a very bad accident on the bus. And I was thrown out of my seat. And I came very close to hitting the side of my head here. And my doctor said, based on the scope of my injury, that if I had hit my head, I would not have gotten up again ever. So, I almost died there. And I almost died again. And that was pretty shocking to me. And I really had to do some thinking after that. I found it. And so I started thinking, how could I take better care of myself? And one of the things I started doing was the protein shake. And I have not had good experiences with counseling in the past. One example, I was paying out of my own pocket for marriage counseling for me and Ron. And every time we would go see the guy, we would go in, sit in his office, and he would tell us about how drunk he got that weekend and how he had such a big drinking problem for about 10 minutes. And I'm paying him for this. And then he would basically tell me I was a mean lady and I had to be more understanding of Ron. Even though Ron, I was very clear that Ron was verbally abusing me and binge drinking and, just basically being a jerk. And he decided to take sides. He was taking Ron's side. And I just gave up on that because, it was unreasonable. By any standard, Ron was not in the right there. So there was that. So, and I was offered after my accident, free counseling through work. And I talked to her a few times, but I realized I really needed to be talking to Jesus. And in the Bible, it refers to God as the counselor. And I never really put that together until today. But I talk to God a lot in my head and ask him to guide me in what I'm thinking, in what's in my heart, what's coming out of my mouth, my attitudes, all of that. I'm constantly asking him for that because, especially since I work in evangelism, I need to maintain a good witness because the devil loves an evangelist who is a hypocrite because that totally destroys the message. And I remember I didn't even want to call myself an evangelist for a long time because of those guys in the 80s and on TV. And I, so I'm always going to God. I'm reading my Bible every day. I read all that every day. The middle shelf, the one with the tablet on the top. And I have the daily Bible and all that stuff. And I'm reading these Bibles. I'm asking God to show me his will and to guide me. And I realized over time, I'm making better food choices. I'm not reacting with food when I'm having a bad day. I'm planning ahead. I'm bringing a smart snack with me. And I'm still eating, quote, bad things occasionally. Like the other day at work, I had McDonald's, a $5 meal. But it was interesting how it worked is that I only ate half of the meal on my lunch. And I put the hamburger away. It was one of those value cheeseburgers. And I put that away and I ate it on my way home because I just wasn't hungry. I didn't want to eat the whole thing at work. And I've never done that before. Or this popcorn. I opened this a week ago. Back in the day, this would have been gone like within half an hour of me opening it. He's just helping me regulate better. And I think that is really key. Because, the last 5 years, I've always been very, very active. At least 12 hours a day. So I don't really think it's exercise, really. But when I'm eating, I'm just subconsciously making better choices as led by God. And that, I think, is what has led to the weight loss. And after I had an incident last week where I was running for my bus, the 85, and my pants, I was wearing jeggings, very cute, bright blue, electric blue jeggings, and they fit great about a month, 6 weeks ago. They just dropped around my ankles when I was running for the bus. And I think it's extremely funny. And, one of my friends was like, oh, we won't talk about, I won't tell anybody else about this. I said, no, go ahead. It's funny, and it is. I realized, hey, I need to look at my clothes. And on my last day off, I went through all the clothes and I had about a dozen contractor bags full of stuff that was just too big. And that got donated this morning. And the fun thing is that right after I made the call, well, I did it online, um, to have all the stuff donated, um, we put a bunch of really, I told God, I think I'm good. Here, I'll show you. Oh, let me get this bra out of the way. I don't want to cause that brother to stumble here. So, there. All right. So we're looking at the clothes here, and these are the shorts. These are the performance tees for summer. The stuff that's moisture wicking. That's not going to get all soggy when I'm waiting at the bus. That's just like my